In recent decades, millions of people have drifted away from Jesus and their Catholic faith. Sadly, many may never find their way back. I'm Tom Peterson, and I believe that God has called me to use my background in media to be a catalyst in the new evangelization. Our organization produces inspiring and creative evangelization messages that have helped lead hundreds of thousands of inactive Catholics, converts, agnostics, and atheists home to Jesus and His Holy Church. Join us as we travel across North America to bring you stories of heartbreak, redemption, and transformation as the Holy Spirit leads His people home. God has an extraordinary plan for each of our lives. He wants us to spend eternity in heaven with Him and bring as many people with us as possible. This is Catholics Come Home. Now, I welcome you to my home to hear their amazing stories. Welcome to Catholics Come Home. In this episode, we'll meet a 59-year-old private investigator who was born in Omaha, Nebraska, and grew up in a seldom practicing Episcopal family. During his youth, our guest never attended church in high school, dropped out of college due to partying, and later joined the U.S. Army. He married his first wife in a civil marriage and served as a military police investigator in Panama. When tragedy struck his family, his marriage ended, and he drifted further into a self-centered lifestyle. But thanks to God's grace, he received an annulment, met his current wife, and later converted to Catholicism. Now, he's an active member of his parish and the Knights of Columbus. Like everybody else in this series, today's guest came home to the church by responding to a call of the Holy Spirit. I'd like you to meet Michael Kotlar. Mike, welcome to our home and welcome home to the Catholic faith.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
I'm glad you're here and we'd love to hear your story. And the best place to start is with your childhood. So tell us where you grew up, about your parents, and your faith background.
Well, I was born in Omaha, Nebraska.
Oh, I love Omaha.
Moved to Denver, Colorado when I was a year old. My dad got a job with Denver Joy there. He helped design and build concrete plants.
Wow, that's a big deal.
After a year there, my sister was added to the family, so the two of us were there.
Nice.
And then eventually another sister and another brother.
Oh, good.
All while we were in Colorado.
And what was your parents' faith background?
So my dad was Episcopal. My mother was Episcopal at the time. She's kind of jumped from different ones to Methodist mostly.
Okay.
My dad's sister is Catholic.
And what were you raised?
I was raised Episcopal.
Okay.
So we went to Episcopal church occasionally, but we never really had a strong faith background.
Oh.
We had a great family life. I grew up in a very tight-knit family. We had great family values.
Did your family pray together?
No, not really. We'd say grace at dinner occasionally, and that was pretty much it. I mean, we grew up. My dad was gone at work a lot, and my mom raised the 4 kids in the house, and so she was a stay-at-home mom.
So you don't remember any like family traditions as a kid of faith?
Not too many. Christmas obviously was our biggest holiday, but we didn't go to church on a regular basis, and I didn't spend a lot of time in church.
Did that improve or get worse as you grew up, as a teenager and so forth? Were you more faithful, or did faith become more distant to you as you grew up?
It became more distant to me,
Wow.
mostly because I was pretty much involved in what most teenagers are involved in their own life, things that were going on, and we never really had much of a church background. We would go occasionally. We moved around a lot, so we moved from Denver to Colorado Springs, back to Denver, and then down to Georgia in 1976. We've been here since then.
So as you grew up and as faith became more distant to you and not an example that your parents set, did your life take any weird turns not having God as a strong foundation in your life?
Yeah. Well, I graduated high school in 1982.
Yeah.
I went to West Georgia College for my first semester of college.
And how did that work out?
Not so well. I had a hard time keeping my grade point average.
And why is that?
above my blood alcohol level.
Oh, so you were partying a little bit as a freshman.
Lot.
I can't believe that, a college freshman partying.
I
You're
tell
the
you.
first one I've ever heard that from, Mike.
Well, and the other thing too is, growing up in a family-oriented environment, we did great, but I suddenly found myself with a lot of extra time and the ability to explore it more. So I went 100% off the deep end on that side.
And how did that affect your college years?
Well, so after my first year of college, my deal with my dad was that he would help pay for school as long as I could keep a B average. And since that didn't happen, I was bounced after my first year.
So you were out on the street, no B average, no support for college. So where did you go next?
So I started working. I worked in a fine dining restaurant at the Waverly Hotel in Atlanta. I learned a lot about food, a lot about wine, and a lot about the folks that came in to be there. And I met an attorney who kind of led me down the path toward private investigation. And
you're a private eye today, aren't you?
I am. So I started working for him.
Like Mannix and Columbo and all those shows. Rockford Files.
Not quite like Magnum. I'm not driving around in a red Ferrari, but.
And you don't have a gun on you now, do you?
No.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
Nope, don't need one.
But you also had a military background, didn't you?
I did. So when I went to work, I decided that I still needed to complete college and that I needed to do that. So I joined the military to get the college fund. And then
Thank you for serving.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
And what branch were you in?
I was in the United States Army Military Police Corps.
Oh, military police. That's a big deal.
My first duty assignment came in Panama. So I met my first wife right before going to Panama, and then I was stationed there for about 2.5 years.
Did you have any exciting stories from Panama in the military police investigations unit?
Sure. There were a lot of things that we did there. So mostly it was during the time that Noriega was there. And so the invasion that occurred in Panama happened during the time that I was there and right before I came back to the United States. So it was pretty busy.
Next, you'll hear what drew Mike home to the Catholic faith.
And he said, I need you to get right with God. I need you and Donna to get right with God. And it's important to me because I want us all to be together again.
So many of us carry such heavy burdens.
Come on, babe. It'll be fun. It's just you and me.
Deep within, we struggle because sin separates us from God. But thanks to the grace of confession, God compassionately listens, forgives, and sets us free. So if it's been a while since you've been to confession or Mass, come home and experience a fresh start. Visit CatholicsComeHome.org.
So you're serving in Panama in the military police, doing good things for our country. Not much faith life.
No.
Did life go smoothly, or did you have some challenges down there?
I had a lot of challenges there, actually. I had, my wife was stateside because of the conflict that was going on down there. I was down there by myself. I got into a lot of trouble. I was a horrible husband to my wife. I was not the greatest. I wasn't faithful. I had a lot of challenges being stationed overseas. Then I came back, and when I got back, she obviously found out about that. We divorced. I continued on in the military, and from that point on, I got in even more trouble.
Yeah.
Not legal, so to speak, but just in general.
Moral trouble, we'll call it.
Moral trouble is a good way to describe it.
And because God wasn't a foundation in your life, you didn't have a compass, you didn't know who to turn to. You were just trying to get through life, and that was your way to medicate and get through it, huh?
Agreed. My primary focus in my life at that point was my own self-gratification, and there wasn't any other guide for me. While I was there, I did meet a young lady who was in the Catholic Church.
Oh.
We went to a place one evening, and she lost a necklace, and she said a prayer to St. Anthony, and I thought, what's that all about? Yeah. And so I asked her about it, and she said, he's a patron saint of lost articles and the lost.
Ooh, how apropos, huh?
Right. We said a prayer together, and in a huge grass field in the middle of nowhere, after a concert had already been completed, we actually found a necklace that she'd been looking for.
St. Anthony came through, and Jesus heard him and pointed out where the necklace was, right?
Yeah, I found it.
Yeah.
I just happened to find it and say, hey, is this it? And there it was.
And maybe to a certain extent, that was the beginning of you being found as well, right?
Yeah, I took more of an interest in the Catholic faith at that point. But being in the military, everybody changes duty assignments, and we split up and went different places. So I kind of lost touch with those folks.
Yeah.
Then I came back here. I reconnected with my ex-wife, and we tried to make things work again, but we got married, and then after that...
Married a second time to each other?
Married a second time to each other. And 6 months after that, I lost my daughter in a car accident the day after Christmas of 1997.
I'm so sorry. Tragic accident, huh?
Yes.
How did that affect you, Mike?
It broke me in a number of ways. It made me question my faith, or really not so much my faith, but whether or not I ever had any to begin with.
Yeah.
And it kind of broke everybody in our family all the way around. It was a tragic time for all of us.
How old was your daughter?
She was 7.
Oh.
And we, my wife and I tried to make things work after that. It didn't go out so well, and we ended up divorcing again a second time. She moved to Arizona with my oldest daughter, and I went to work as a security guy in a bar trying to help make ends meet, and that also just was a bad environment for me all the way around.
When did your life start taking a turn for the better?
When I met the lady who did change my life, was Donna, she's my wife currently. We met and found out we had the same birthday.
Huh.
We met actually at a birthday party. We got to know each other a little bit, and then when we first met, I hadn't seen her for a while, just as a brief encounter. And then like a year later, I found out that she went to Transfiguration Catholic Church, which is the same church that I used to go to.
Off and on years ago.
Off and on years ago. But I didn't want to, that's where Megan's funeral was, so I didn't really want to go back there.
That was your daughter?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we went back. I went with Donna on a few things, and then I started going on Christmas and Easter with her because she and her brother are both Catholic, and they are practicing in the faith.
Yes.
I still kind of stayed on the outside fringe of that a little bit.
When you went to church periodically like that, did you feel God touching your heart and you were just so stuck in your ways you ignored it? What was going on in your soul at that point?
I found myself connected more to my wife, but not so much to the church or God.
Do you know why? I mean, could you figure out why now that you look back?
To be honest with you, no. I think I just kind of ignored it.
Kind of like you said, you were self-centered, kind of thinking about yourself instead of about God and others?
Yeah, I was.
Yeah.
What drew me most to God was Donna's brother.
What happened?
He and I got along very well. We were very tight, and he passed from cystic fibrosis a few years ago. At that point, he came home for hospice and was staying in our home. And one of the nights that he was in there, he got a hold of me and he said, "Michael, I need you to sit down. I need to talk to you." And I said, "Okay, hang on a second. I'm doing this." And he goes, "Sit down now."
Good for him.
But at that point, I didn't feel like it was Kurt talking to me.
Yeah.
So I felt like the Holy Spirit was mentioning to me that it was time to sit down and listen to this. And Kurt was very adamant. He said, "I need you to get right with God.
Oh.
I need you and Donna to get right with God. And it's important to me because I want us all to be together again."
Yeah.
A few days later, he passed. I picked up Father Fausto at the church, brought him over to the house. He read Kurt his last rites, and the next day he passed.
Wow.
After his funeral, we went to church on that Sunday, and I started pulling books out of the bookstore. My wife looked at me and she said, "What are you doing?" And I looked at her and I said, "Well, I'm getting what I need to go to RCIA."
Yeah.
And she's like, "You're serious about this?" And I said, "Yeah, I told your brother that I would do that." And so we signed me up for RCIA.
And how did the annulment process fit into this? Did you get the annulment prior, kind of while you were going through RCIA? Because obviously
The RCIA director, Jeannie, told me I needed to go see Deacon Joe. And I was like, I haven't even been in class one day yet, and I'm already in the deacon's office. And so I went and I spoke with him, and he told me we had to go through the annulment process in order to come into the church.
Yeah, to kind of start with a clean slate and understand God's plan for marriage so that you started off on the right
And so
foot.
that we would understand and accept the sacrament of marriage.
Sure.
And so I started that process, and it was very long and very arduous. So it kind of went on during RCIA.
Gotcha.
I completed the RCIA class, but I could not come into the church,
Right.
Which was difficult for me. My sponsor, Paul Crowder, who's been a guest on your show previously, he was fantastic, and he helped me get through that part of things.
Good support for you.
Absolutely. Making sure that I stayed grounded and that we stayed.
And patient and waiting.
Exactly, because it can be very trying and very frustrating.
Yeah.
And eventually the annulment came through. It took almost 2.5 years.
Yeah. But you learned something during that process, didn't you?
I did. And I felt like this was God's way of asking me if I was serious this time about being part of the church.
Are you willing to purge the things that you were doing for self-gratification and focus on me, is what Jesus was asking you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it brought me around to a much greater understanding of the faith. And so we decided that we were going to pick a day that would be good for everything. So our marriage had to be convalidated also. Right. So I had my confirmation, my first Holy Communion, and our marriage convalidated all on the same day, which was December 22nd, which is our birthday.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
And my sister's birthday is on the same day.
I have to ask you, when you went to the Sacrament of Reconciliation for the first time, or the first time in many years, like, how did you feel?
Lightened. Like the load was completely off of my shoulders. And it was an amazing feeling. It's one that I had not experienced in a long time. And it was very cleansing for me. Yeah. It's very difficult to talk about all of the things that you've done wrong in your life or felt like were not appropriate in your life, and to be absolved of those and to be moving forward with your life with God and with Jesus is an amazing feeling.
And better now than at Judgment Day, where you don't get a do-over. I mean, you had the opportunity to say, I'm sorry, and receive God's mercy in the Sacrament of Reconciliation, where if you waited, you don't get that opportunity.
Right?
Yeah.
There would not be an opportunity then.
No. So literally that saved your soul.
It did.
Yeah.
And it's an amazing feeling. It really is.
In our final segment, you'll hear what's new in Mike's life today.
I actually enjoy going to church. I have a great time there. I have made so many new friends that have been such a positive influence in my life.
How do you figure out what is right and what is wrong? Well, if your core beliefs are shaped by your culture or the world that is always changing, then you are probably on this road. But if your beliefs are based on truth that never changes, then you are likely over here. So which is right? Well, moral relativism means you can kind of make up your morality as you go. If you decide you want to change what's right and wrong, moral relativism says that's okay. Yet those over here say that there is one truth that never changes. Here you always know what is right and wrong. John Paul II warned us at the end of this road we will find the culture of death. Those who are on this road believe that God would not create humanity and then stop short of telling his children exactly what is right and what is wrong. It is because of this that we believe that at the end of this road, we will truly find the fullness of life.
So Mike, you're in the church, you've gone through RCIA, you've had your annulment, you've had your marriage convalidated. All of these things happened in the right order at the right time, and you had that cleansing experience in the Sacrament of Reconciliation, which I highly recommend. In fact, one of our websites is goodconfession.com, which will help people to understand the power and the beauty and the goodness of the Sacrament of Reconciliation at giving us a fresh start in life. Over and over again, Christ is willing to give us his mercy, call us home, if we're willing to show up and say, I'm sorry, and try. So now your life as a faithful Catholic, tell me about what's different now.
I actually enjoy going to church. I have a great time there. I have made so many new friends that have been such a positive influence in my life. And my wife she and I are very, very close, and much closer than we have been before. We share with God our experiences and our prayers and our wishes. Paul, who's my sponsor, also has convinced me to join the Knights of Columbus.
Oh, good.
Which is an amazing brotherhood of men that we do all kinds of support and charity work, and we support each other. And my wife is a Columbiate in the auxiliary.
Fantastic.
So we are very involved in the church, and we have lots of fun with that. She gets to get dressed up like an elf every Christmas, and
neat.
Does the Santa Claus thing with the kids.
She helps St. Nicholas to show the love to the kids. Now that you're Catholic and you look back, you've had 3 marriages, and you're in a marriage now that's a holy marriage. Tell us how it's different.
It brings us closer to God. Being part of the church as the bride to Jesus, and our marriage being part of that brings us a lot closer to each other and to God. I had a friend once describe an equilateral triangle to me and say the closer the points get together, if one represents the man, one represents the wife, and one represents God, each point as they come closer together becomes closer to God.
Yeah.
And so it's been an amazing experience for me.
When you invite God to the marriage, everything's better, isn't it?
It is. It is. There's still times when you have rough things, and
It's humanity, isn't it? You've got to ask for forgiveness, and that's what confession's for, and that's what saying I'm sorry is for, right?
But it makes it much easier to move forward, and it's been great.
As we get near the end of our time together, I want to ask you, when you reflect on your life now and the peace you have, even in your career, what you do as a private investigator, maybe your time in the nights, and you look back at those days when you were self-gratifying, kind of doing your own thing. Tell us how life's different now.
Well, it's much more fulfilling now. Back when I was going through phases of my own self-centered, self-gratifying kind of life, it was very empty.
Yeah.
No matter what I did to try and make myself feel better in one way or another, just never worked.
Yeah.
And now it's so much easier to pray and have an answer. God has given me so many gifts in my life. Yeah. My marriage, my family, my wife, and most of all, my faith.
Yeah.
And it's been an amazing journey and brought me so much closer, and things are so much better that way.
Well, Mike, we're glad you said yes to God. We're glad that you were patient during the annulment process and the RCIA process, which ended up paying off big time, that you found Christ and you found a life centered on God,
yes,
which helps you to help others now, instead of just trying to fill that vacant void in our hearts with something other than God, and that never fulfills us, huh? Well, we're glad you said yes. We're glad that God showed you His mercy over and over again, especially in the sacrament of reconciliation. We're glad you're part of the family, and welcome home.
Thank you.
God calls us to build habits for lasting happiness by uniting our will to His. Great-heartedness is an important virtue to help reach this goal. The virtue of great-heartedness, or magnanimity, is the habit of knowing that you are called to do great things and daring to do them with confidence. It is the virtue of great hearts and great minds who seek to achieve good and noble ends. The ancient world highly esteemed this virtue, and when someone did something heroic and selfless, the people would say, "Of course, that person has a great heart." For the Christian, the virtue of great-heartedness goes hand in hand with the virtue of humility. It begins in knowing that you have been created by God in His image. This is the source of your dignity. Even on a purely biological level, you are amazing. Seriously, even with all the shortcomings you may have, all the knocks you may have received along the way, you can say with the psalmist in Psalm 139, "I am wonderfully made." You are composed of more than 30 trillion cells, working together through complex processes to run all the systems of an incredible living being. You also have a mind that can process all the information coming through all of your senses. God of the universe, who created everything and everything with a purpose, has created you with a free will so that you can choose to act as He does. God has placed you in this world in a certain place and time and with a certain mission. And on top of all this, He loves you. He loves you just the way you are, but way too much to leave you that way. He is reaching out to you as a loving father reaches out to his wayward son, and as a mother comforts her child. As a Christian, your dignity comes from being loved into existence by God and joined to His church through baptism. And yet the knowledge of this dignity is what prompts great-hearted Christians to do great things for God as a response to His love. Every Christian aware of his or her dignity as a son or daughter of God should seek nothing less than greatness. all Christians should seek to become the best version of themselves through cooperation with God's calling and with God's grace. Small-mindedness, on the other hand, is a habitual telling yourself that you can't, when in actual fact you can if you make the effort. Small-mindedness is based on the lie that directly attacks your dignity and your ability to do great things for others and for God. However, as St. Paul said, I can do all things in Him who strengthens me. In truth, the gifts that we have been given are never just for us. They are meant to glorify God and to serve others. While small-mindedness subtracts from the world, great-heartedness adds to the goodness and the bounty of the world. We need more great-hearted men and women. Learn how to build habits for lasting happiness by ordering your copy of our Ignatius Press book entitled The Willpower Advantage today.
Here's your opportunity to grow in faith and help Jesus save souls. Visit our CatholicsComeHome.org website and click on the Shop tab. Here, you can discover our 4 brand new popular books to help you and those you love grow closer to Christ. The Willpower Advantage, Building Habits for Lasting Happiness, includes a personal spiritual audit and a customized plan to help you fight lifelong vices and find freedom in Christ. One Moment Can Change a Soul helps you guide family and friends home to the Catholic faith. Plus, 2 beautifully illustrated children's books to help your children or grandchildren stay close to Jesus. Epic, The Story of Jesus' Holy Catholic Church, and Santa's Priority, Keeping Christ in Christmas. You can also order evangelization cards and DVDs with all of our best episodes of our international television series. If you have a question or want to tell us how Catholics Come Home has blessed someone you know, or you can financially help us blitz the secular airwaves with these powerful evangelicals, contact us at info@catholicscomehome.org or by mail. Catholics Come Home, P.O. Box 1802, Roswell, Georgia 30077. Please help Jesus save more souls. During his adolescence, Mike didn't focus much on faith. Through his young adulthood, Mike lapsed in and out of a self-gratifying lifestyle as a divorced man without much structure. After the accidental death of his daughter and the passing of his brother-in-law, Mike reflected on his life and knew he needed to get right with God. By listening to the Holy Spirit, Mike converted to Catholicism, and he and his family are now fervent in their Catholic faith. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Catholics Come Home. Please keep Mike and the Kotlar family and all of us at Catholics Come Home in your prayers. And remember to fulfill your role in the new evangelization and help love somebody to heaven.